So Reverend Green, tell us your experience with healthcare in the Department of Corrections. You're no stranger to it.
Right, and I'd like to thank you, Rob, for being here because it makes it a little easier for me to tell my story because you actually interviewed me for WBZ. My story is that my husband, Michael Smith, he died from prostate cancer and bone cancer in 2011. I'd like to say, and to say it openly, he didn't get the care. He was diagnosed back in 1997, and I found out all this information after my husband passed. I got all his medical records, and this is when I found this out. In 1997, my husband was documented with a 7.0 prostate level. Now, back during that time, a 4 was, whenever you was that high, you would have to be treated by someone. Now, he was documented at Stateville Prison in 97, and there was nowhere in all these years we did not know he had prostate cancer. And he died from prostate cancer and bone cancer.
I've seen the medical record, and it says
Yes.
in the medical record PSA high. I think 8 is high. Some of the doctors in the room would know, but it goes much higher than that.
Oh yes, my husband was. It's really hard. I thought I had got past all of this, but I noticed this morning when I was having breakfast with my daughter, I was going over his case, and my daughter broke down and started crying, and I broke down and started crying. And I'm like, okay, when will the healing begin? But because of what we lived through as a family, with me having all the experience I had with DOC, I actually was an advocate for people health care in prison. That's what I did, and most of the legislators know that. I worked hard to help people that had medical challenges. But it wasn't until my husband actually was diagnosed with prostate cancer that I found that I could do nothing. I literally could do nothing. I mean, I had people on speed dial that some people could never reach, like Dr. Schicker and Roberta Frews, Deputy Director Frews at that time. I had them on speed dial. I can actually call them up. But I was still not able to get my husband insured. Something like insured, just so he can live long enough to see his grandkids before he died. Now, when he was diagnosed by Dr. Matthews, a urologist, Dr. Matthews gave a prescription that my husband was supposed to go and have his body cleansed so he can take a biopsy. You know what you have to do, prepare your body. And he was sent back to Dixon Prison, and they did not do that. When he came to have the biopsy, his body was not cleansed. He had not been prepared for the biopsy. So Dr. Schicker, which is at a hospital, had to send him back to DOC. It took another month before they brought my husband back. Now, mind you, all this time he is literally dying in front of my face. This was a strong man.
And so when are we finally going for this biopsy? You said the original PSA was I think 7.6 in 1997. So he's going for the biopsy in what? What year?
The biopsy was in 2010. He didn't get medical treatment until 2010. And I had to fight with Deputy Director Roberta Frew, not fight, because she was willing to work with me to try to get them to get the medical care for my husband. But he was not diagnosed until 2010. And the biopsy, and the test he had for prostate was back in 97. This was in his medical records. 13
years it took, and cancer is something you want to treat sooner rather than later. Yes. And when he went back, if I'm not mistaken, his PSA level was at 256.
256.
Again, I've seen the medical records on
this.
I know
you
have. Shared them with me. And then before he actually got treatment, the PSA level was at 892. And 8 is high, is my
Dr. Matthews had prescribed my husband with 2 pills and 1 hormonal shot. He went back to Dixon. They gave him these 2 pills, but they never gave him the hormonal shot. And that shot would have given me enough time to take my grandkids, because he was fading away in front of me. I'm watching this. In less than 3 months, my husband is literally losing so much weight that he can't even walk. They refused to give him a hormonal shot. And when Dr. Matthews by the time he got back to Dr. Matthews' office, I was at the governor's office trying to get a medical clemency. By the time he got there, and Dr. Matthews would have signed off, But by the time he got there, his body had deteriorated. It didn't matter. It just did not matter. He was not going to live.
And by the time they finally gave him treatment for prostate cancer, the cancer had moved
It had
to his back
all over
and
his
spine.
back and his spine, everything. It just ate him up.
Not a huge surprise, given that it took 13 years
13
to get
years.
treatment.
30. And the thing about all of this is that I would have not found this out if I had not ordered his medical records. Thank you, Ted. Ted worked with me on this, and he helped me understand to get those medical records, because that's how you find out what really happened. And there's nowhere in the records, and I mean I got boxes of medical records. This man was at the doctor's office all the time, but talking about his back, you know, his pain, but we didn't know he had bone cancer and prostate cancer. We didn't know that. Because I advocate for everybody else. You think I wouldn't advocate for my husband? But they did not. Waxford, the people, they just would not give him even insured. I could have bought this medication. They told me I couldn't buy it. I would have bought the hormone. I would have bought it, but they said I couldn't do it.
Thank you for sharing your story.